tell you one thing. So we got takeaway in yesterday because originally we were going to the pub, but then we forgot that Elle's friend was coming with her boys, sort of thing. So we ended up getting takeaway.
Elle's friend.
Well, she's our friend too. She's my friend as well, sort of thing. Her and Elle, the best buds. And so we forgot that they were coming around because originally we were going to go to the pub for dinner and stuff. Great, no worries. So we ended up getting pizza in, and I had a really busy day. As I said yesterday, I took Edward out to the zoo and stuff. And
I remember you telling me.
So we walking around and everything else. I was like ravenous.
And like all you want is a massive steak or a parma and some beer.
I was just like, so I ended up getting the pizza. And normally when I get a pizza, I normally eat half of it and the next half is for the lunch the next day. Okay.
Yeah.
But as said, I was very hungry and thought in my genius wisdom idea of I'm just going to keep eating the pizza.
I was going to say, I thought it was going to be, I'll just get two.
No, I thought, I'll just keep eating the pizza, okay? Now, bear in mind, I'm not Fat Boy Jordan anymore. Stomach size has shrunk a wee bit. Yeah. So literally afterwards, at about 30 minutes afterwards, my body's like, oh, why?
Oh, God.
And I just felt like I had a massive, I didn't have a stomach ache per se, but, he's just like, you can feel it going through your body, and he's like,
yeah, and you're it's almost like you're overfull and you're like, I hate
it's like,
the world.
No, it's like, at this point, my brain's like, yeah, that was a bad idea. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. No shit, it was a bad idea. Dorks down under. Yeah, God. Mm-hmm. So, and then I woke up and felt twice as bad because I've slept on it.
God.
And I was like, I need to poop. And I had the world's biggest turd this morning. God. So, sort of thing. I couldn't even face breakfast. I didn't even want lunch when I got back from food shop.
That has to be a clip of just you saying I had the biggest turd, and then there's just clip cut to a guy with his legs up going, oh.
Oh wait, well, with Austin Powers.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Number 2. Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dorks Down Under Season 2, Episode 24.
Welcome back to Turd Talk.
Given the fact that we're talking about Turd Talk, I will preface that this episode, ladies and gentlemen, should be watched at viewer discretion because there is likely to be swearing involved in this episode. A lot more than normal, beyond the normal levels of swearing that we often have on this podcast. But it's going to be a lot. I was
going to say, especially because I plan at some point of doing the Roy Kent chant.
Yes,
because
we will be doing the Roy Kent chant because we love the Roy Kent chant. Anyway, but before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, so as we've said, we are available on All Good Podcasts. We want to say a big thank you to all the new subscribers as well as all the loyal subscribers who have been following, liking, sharing. It gets it out there. It gets around the AI algorithms that all the websites use and stuff like that. We are available.
And none of us understand.
Yes, and nobody understands. We are a long format podcast, so we've made it extra hard on ourselves because we can't seem to keep our episodes under a small time frame, which is fine. But it just means that we have to deal a bit more of a grind with promoting ourselves. But anyway, if you can like, share, subscribe, we are available on all good podcast websites, as well as being available to view our beautiful faces on Spotify, as well as YouTube. You can find us at Dorks Down Under, and you can also follow our social handles. Everything's in the description box, but you can find us available on Twitter and TikTok.
I'm so glad when you go away. I think we're just going to have to take a break because I can't do that spiel.
Is this the reason why we just need to pump out as many extra episodes before I have to go away in 2 weeks?
Just follow us, guys. The link's probably down below.
The link's somewhere, and I'm sure I've released the episode correctly or scheduled it in,
it may have come out normal time, may have come out normal time,
it may not. There's no clips for 4 weeks, it's fine. We will make it work as best we can.
My clips are horrible, and I never make them, and I'm sorry.
You've done one good clip, and then I took your format and I outshone you. Is what you've done. Is what I've done.
That's because I'm here for inspiration.
Yeah. Oh yes.
And that's the bullshit that I am sticking to at this point.
But yes. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this week we are, as we discussed last week, we're going to be discussing the amazing TV show which is called Ted Lasso.
Actually, as we discussed the week prior to last week, but then we got it short because I was still.
It was. We were happy to discuss it, but then Des was like, "We can't discuss it. I'm still watching it, and it's really good, and I don't want any spoilers." And it's like, "Fine, absolutely fine." Because I know I would spoil because it is such one of those shows, sort of thing. So,
well, it was funny too though because I watched the last episode. I'm sorry, no. Let me repeat that. After the episode, I think that I wasn't up to number 6. I think I told you. I think I was up to like 10 or 11.
Yeah. Something like that.
So the last scene of season 2 where fucking Nate and West Ham, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad.
Right, yeah. We will. How about we go through the seasons from start to finish before because trust me, I have words. About the journey that season 2 took me on. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, so I'll give it a brief synopsis. So Ted Lasso is basically. Well, according to Wiki, it's apparently an American sports comedy drama. Actually, probably sums it up quite well, sort of thing.
It's kind of random too, though, because like there's literally 2 O's in it that are American, and that's it.
Yeah. So basically, the entire concept of the show is, basically an American football coach comes over to train and be the new manager of an English. They are in the Champions League at the time, which we're not going to get into the difference between Championship, Premiership, or anything like that because it just confuses the hell out of me.
But it is funny when Ted Lasso is trying to figure it out, and it just does make it laugh.
And the benefit is that basically it's about Americans. Basically it's about how he as an American sort of takes him on a very different coaching journey than every other British UK manager. Then you find out, but the main reason why you find out why he's been hired is what you think he's been hired off because, of course, he took an unknown team and they won whatever major championship.
Division, I think it was. Or
they won
the second division championship.
They won whatever major football championship in the States. And
it was a college team.
That was it. It was a college team. Yeah. But basically, you feel like that Hannah Waddingham's character, who looks amazing in the entire series, by the way.
She's powerful. She is striking. She is like, I'm like things, but I won't lie, I do have a crush on Keely.
Ooh, nice. I'm Hannah all the time. Although to be fair, Sassy would get my vote. If I had to choose Sassy, we all need a Sassy.
Sassy and the dude from Wales.
The dude from Wales.
The one that comes out towards the end of the series.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. That'll be good. But yeah, Colin. He's a strong and capable man.
I loved his character from the start. And then when they did that, I'm like, I actually don't hate that. Like,
it was good. It was really good. I thought it was quite well done. So basically, you find out that Hannah Waddingham's character, basically, she's gained the club through her divorce with her partner. And basically, her partner loves the club. It is like his life and soul. Apparently, he was a boy and he used to sneak in to watch the games and everything else. And so one thing that's really good is basically you think, oh well, she's obviously wanting to get the club promoted and make it her own. All this jazz. No, the reason why she got Ted Lasso over is she wanted the club to burn, be relegated. She wanted to drive it into the ground to destroy, a bit of a revenge arc. And the entire of season 1 is. Basically, Ted actually starts winning the hearts and minds of everyone. And he even convinces her that she's in the wrong, and she admits it to him at the end. And he's like, "Well, don't worry, boss. We can make this work." And it's just like, even when he finds out that the reason why he's been brought over is to make the club fail. He can't do it, and the fact is that he's so amazing. And Jason Sudeikis is amazing. I don't think you could have picked anyone else to be.
Well, he wrote it as well, did he not?
I believe it was. Yeah, it was developed by him. So him, Bill Lawrence, and Brendan Hunt, and Joe Kelly were the ones who developed it. So it was a good idea. Yeah. So. And
I must say though, it's obviously been well received. So it's actually won 11 Primetime Emmy Awards.
Yeah, it was nominated for 20. So
it's been nominated for 77 different awards. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It's been nominated for 183 awards. It's won 77, and 11 of those are daytime Emmys.
Wow.
And it runs for 3 series. Sorry.
Yeah. is amazing. This year, I mean,
Yeah.
I think just from the story concept, like from the story wise, beautifully driven, fabulous sort of
Yes.
thing. There, I mean, there was the occasional one that felt like a bit of a fluff episode, like sort of
Yeah.
a bit of a filler.
But there
But
wasn't as many.
it
To be
wasn't as
fair,
many as the series as the show went on. You kind of expect a bit more fluff here and there, but the fact that there was only like one or two episodes across the entire across
yeah.
every season, and I'm like, oh, that's actually not too bad. I would say
And
personally.
I must say there did seem to be a few where I found, especially in season 3,
Mm.
because you had fallen in love with so many characters, there was a lot of back and forth, and there was a lot of things that kind of would focus on one character over another, or it would pop back in
Yeah.
different things. But they did a really nice job, and one thing that I do love about a comedy like this is they did a really nice job of tying things together and making
Mm.
things. So, for example, like there's certain shows that I've seen where they kind of shoehorn in this joke that goes through the entire one. But in this series, it didn't happen. You just get the occasional nod back to it, or
Yeah.
the occasional thing, like even like the little jokes where obviously about offside, where Ted finally calls an offside, and there's a little joke about you're never going to learn offside, and he gives him the $20 that happened in, like, I think it was the first
I think it
episode or
was like the
something.
first episode. It was the first episode. He said, "I just can't get my head around this offside rule," and so he
Yep.
says, "Listen, you get it. If you get a call right, I'll pay you $20." And it was kind
Yeah.
of the deal.
And it was literally like, I think it was the last game against, no, the second last game against Man City in the third season.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, it's like
was
episode 11 or
the
10 or
final
11.
game. Yeah. It was that one sort of thing. It was.
No. So it was against Man City. Then they played West Ham in the last
That was
match,
it.
and then
Yeah.
Man City, if they won, were obviously won the championship.
Yeah. And then
So yes,
so. Yeah, I mean, I think that those were the good little reoccurring jokes because it was
Yeah.
all about football sort of thing. Were the little reoccurring jokes where he kept getting things wrong, and I thought it was really good. So basically, I ended up getting back on. So I found this series show during the first lockdown. I found this.
yeah, because it came out
yeah.
in 2020.
Yeah.
And I remember it because Kaylee and Lee, who are my Canadian friends, who I love dearly, and I still see to this day, I met them when I was living in Richmond. And they messaged me and said, "Oh my God, you've got to watch this." And I was like, I don't really want to watch a soccer drama, and I didn't really look into it. I just went, whatever.
Yeah.
Then Bonnie, who one of the girls I lived with when I was living in Richmond, and also Megs, both said, "You've got to watch this. It's just so cool." And because I lived in Richmond for probably 8 or 9 months, and then I continued to go back there because that's where my kind of home pub was when I first started there, there was just something magical about it. And then seeing all those places, like seeing him on Richmond Green, seeing him at the end of the second episode where he's standing outside the sign that got put in the day I left of Brewers Lane, which is where the Britannia are, see him as what do they call it? The Crown and Anchor, I think
Crown
it is.
and Anchor pub, yeah.
Which is actually, when I was there, I don't know if it's changed its name or they've changed it for it, but was the Prince's Head. What's funny is the only match that I ever saw in London was at the Crystal Palace home ground, which is Nelson Place, or where the fictional Nelson Place thing is.
Yeah.
So it was even funnier because when I was living in Teddington, one of the guys used to play for Crystal Palace, so he's like, "I'll come along." So we went and actually watched a game there. So even going there felt like, though it wasn't Richmond, it felt a bit like that. So seeing it makes me want to go back to London so much.
It's, I tell you what, because obviously with my upcoming trip, we've got a couple of days where my mother-in-law lives. She lives in Petersfield, so it's just it's a train ride straight into London, which is like less than an hour. So we got the last week we're down south. I'm actually like, well, actually, I might want to go have a wander around Richmond, because why not, sort of thing.
Why not?
Because obviously I used to live on the north. I used to live at Barnet, and then I was in Hertfordshire. So I only really knew the north side of London. So you don't really, and when you're living outside of London, you tend to only visit the bit on your channel as you go in and out. So you don't really go, like, I wouldn't find any reason to go over to Richmond unless I needed to go somewhere specifically for something. So
yeah. But it's funny too because those phone boxes that you always see them walk past, I used to call like family, friends, and mates and stuff from there with a calling card, and it was so rap because I remember walking out to the green and just having a walk around. They were the first things I saw, and I got the dicky photo of a foreigner with the phone boxes and stuff, and then obviously you've got that church where Beard goes into.
Yep.
That church is obviously a closed church, and weirdly, if you walk through the courtyard of that church just before where he entered, if you go across the road is where the nerd shop is that appeared in Red Dwarf. So there's all these things that have now since happened in Richmond that now make me want to go back and see it again.
Yeah, no.
Not to mention I've got friends there and stuff, and that was the thing for me that struck me with this and made me fall in love with it instantly was I knew everywhere where it was. Like it wasn't just like sometimes you see a building and you're like, oh no, I've been to London, I've seen the London Eye, but that was my home. I remember playing soccer or football on the green. I remember walking through the green, walking around. I've been to the Prince's Head or the Crown and Anchor or whatever they call it now in the show. And I think that's what just made it for me even more special. And I can see why Kaylee Lee, Bonnie and Megs were just like, you've got to watch it. It's so cool. And it really was something special. And the guy's just so southern. Like he's from Kansas.
Yeah.
He's just so southern, such a southern gentleman. Like nothing phases him. Oh,
Yeah. So
it's a lot of fun.
So basically, so obviously I watched up until with COVID on. I ended up getting to, because obviously their episodes were being released at the same time, and I got halfway through season 2, and then I got distracted by some other show, and then I just totally forgot about it. And it was only when, because obviously season 3's come out, and Ellie came back and was talking about it. She went, oh my God, I heard the funniest thing on the radio today. And I was like, oh, what? She went, oh, there was one of these producers on, I can't think it was one of the ZM shows or whatever, said, oh, they were talking about, she was whinging about the new Ted Lasso series. And I went, oh, and that obviously triggered my mind of, oh, and yeah, I need to finish that season 2. And she was like, I said, oh, what's the problem? She went, oh, well, the problem is she's only watched season 3. And I went, what? And she went, yeah, oh, yeah, trust me, she got it both barrels from everyone, not people on the show, people texting in going, oh my God, you can't jump in to season 3 of a show like this. You're missing all, because she didn't rate it. She said, I don't get what the hype is. It's terrible. And she's like, but it's like, you can't, it's like jumping into like the third Lord of the Rings movie and not understanding the journey that's occurred to get this ring to Mordor. And you're like, oh, well, he's throwing a bit of jewelry in a volcano. Why? Why can't he just destroy it? So,
yeah, I know, yeah. Just hammer it. Just hammer it.
Just hammer it. Hammer it. Break it in half. Get the plier cutters out. But but it's like, so of course this girl got roasted.
I don't get it.
So this producer got roasted about it, and then I said, "Is it a good shot?" And I said, "Actually, funnily enough, it is." I said, "I got halfway through season 2, and then got distracted by something else, and I haven't been back." I said, "Do you want to watch an episode and see what you think?" And we watched the first, because our standard rule is with a new show, you watch the first 2 episodes, and of course I've seen the first season, so I loved it. I was happy to rewatch it. And then it was like, we watched the first 2, she's like, oh, it's quite good. And I went, yeah, I know, trust me, it gets better as well. She went, oh, does it? And I went, yeah. And
it's cool too, though, and I think that's one thing about it that makes it so good is the fact that it is very different to. It is very on brand, but also very different to what Americans would see in their sports style series, and it's great to see that they've got the different the people from different countries, like the Dutch, you've got Swiss, you've got obviously the Africans and stuff like that, and it really does feel like that. Where
because
what a lot of people don't realize is 9 times out of 10, most soccer teams in England don't have English people playing for them.
Yeah, no, this is the thing, and a lot of people, I think a lot of other countries struggled. They're like, oh, well, no, surely they should all be local boys. And it's like, nah. Even, I mean, unless it's, what is it? Whatever division Wrexham, because obviously I watched that documentary series on the Welcome to Wrexham, which I might be going to, by the way, on our trip now. We might, because we're going to North Wales, and I'm like, where's Wrexham exactly? And it's like, oh, it's just down the road. So I might have to go get myself a
jersey.
Go get myself a jersey, because why not? Because it'd be
rude not to.
It'd be rude not to. In fact, it would be very rude not to.
I wonder if you can get Richmond jerseys or scarves or something like that.
If by any chance, if I swing by Richmond, do you need me to pick up Richmond AFC?
No, I'm more just curious because I'd be curious if you could. I'd be curious.
I will go, and if I find it, I will get you a Richmond AFC jersey. So
I'm wondering too, though, is if like the Prince's Head or whatever, Crown and Anchor, whatever they're calling it, I'm wondering if they would sell merch there or something.
they
like
will.
Somebody would have to.
There'll be something, but yeah. So anyway, so of course we watched the first couple of episodes, and they was like, "Oh, it's quite good." I went, "Yeah," because of course when I explained what the concept of the show was, she went, "So it's a football drama." He went, "No. That's the beauty of it. Yes, it revolves around the world of football, but it doesn't matter what's happening with the football bit. It's all about actually the people. It's really good sort of thing."
Yeah.
And literally 2 episodes in, she was like, "Yeah, I quite like this." And then
because
of course you got all the deception bit. Obviously, so from up high, you've obviously got Hannah Wattingham, who's Rebecca Welton, and then you got Jason Sudeikis, who's Ted Lasso. So you got that bit, which is quite interesting. And then you've got the other bit, which gets introduced very early on, which is the love triangle. So, which is of season 1, which is Roy Kent. Oh,
well, it's weird. It's weird though. It's weird though because it's not really a love triangle at the start.
No, it's not.
Because so Jamie Tart and Keely are dating, who's kind of like the PR chick.
Well, no. At the time, she's
just his girlfriend.
Page 3 model. Well, actually, do I have to explain what Page 3 is? I probably do.
You might actually, because I mean I know what it is. I won't lie though. So for anybody watching, before Jordan explains it, this is how I got introduced to Page 3. Second day in London, I'm technically not working because I got in at like 9 o'clock. And the dude's like, "Oh, do you want to read the paper?" And throws the Sun in front of me. I was like, "Yeah, cool." Knowing full well what's going to be on Page 3. So, of course, I open up the first page and be like, "I didn't expect boobs," and quickly close it. And I'm like, I might start at the sport. And he's like, "Sorry, I had to do it to you." I'm like, "Is it like all through?" He's like, No, that's just a Page 3 girl. I'm like, what? And then I'll let Jordan explain what a Page 3 girl is.
So, now, can I say I don't know if the practice is still going on. I have not lived in England for some time. I've not bought a paper for some time. Okay? I just need to put that out there immediately, okay?
Yes.
So basically, I think it was only the Sun newspaper still doing it at the time. But yeah, basically you'd open up Page 3 and there would generally be a model and she would be showing off her lovely figure in generally just with a pair of bottoms on.
Yes.
That is a lovely way to put it, I think. And obviously it would tell you about her and all this jazz. And actually some girls would get callbacks for starring in movies or to go fashion stages
or
and all
Max.
that.
I think Maxim was a big deal then. There were heaps of girls that went into Maxim.
And then
they went into
FHM as well, sort of thing, so there was... it could actually have led to something possibly, but anyway, so it was always interesting.
Quite often it didn't, but you tend to find the Saturday and the Sunday. I think it was the Sunday one was the big one, and you tend to have the more premium, and I hate using the term loosely, but more premium girls are the ones that had there. But like Katie Price was a well-known one.
Yep.
I think Samantha Fox was another one who...
Hang on, I'll tell you what, I'll quickly look up well-known.
Yeah, so just an FYI. So according to the internet, it says The Sun ceased publishing topless Page 3 images in the Republic of Ireland edition in 2013 and in the UK in 2015 and on its page3.com website in 2017.
My God.
So they actually had a Page 3 website.
Yeah.
The hell.
Oh, they had Spice Girls in there at one point.
Yeah, at one point they had a Spice Girls, but I don't know if they were actually topless. I think they were.
They weren't topless. No. So
they were.
Most of the celebrity ones were never topless, but a lot of the, but obviously they were down to. Damn. I just realised the wife's going to walk in and say, and she's like, "Why are you looking at half-naked women?" It's like, no, we're talking about the episode. It's for the podcast. It's for the podcast.
But that being said, though, if you've ever read a newspaper and you open it up. Yeah. And it is a newspaper that you get from a newsagent, the last thing you expect to see is boobs.
Correct.
Not saying that I'm not a fan of boobs, just saying that in that moment,
yes.
And when I don't know anybody in the pub, and all of a sudden I open it up and there's just some nude images in my paper, I'm like, what the hell?
Yes. No. But basically, Keely is a Page 3 girl at the time, but she's well known, she's popular and all this jazz, and basically. Yeah. she's dating the star player. Yeah, Jamie's the
Yep.
star player at that point. Yeah, so
Yes.
he's the
Well,
cocky cocksure
he's a cocky
guy and
young
all that
gun.
jazz. He's the young gun. Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
cocky young gun sort of superstar guy. And the other character who cannot stand him is the old grizzled veteran of Roy Kent.
Yeah. Who's just great.
Who is amazing. He is played.
Yeah.
He's
By
played
Brett Goldstein,
by
I think it
Brett
is.
Goldstein. Yes, he's also going
Yeah.
to be the new Hercules in our in the Marvel MCU.
I thought he looked familiar.
Yeah, he's Hercules at the end. At the end of Thor,
he's just got this thing where it
yeah.
almost looks like he's got a pole in his back. He's just like this, and he just swears a lot and grunts. And and towards the end, you'll actually find that he actually becomes one of the coaches. But he's allergic to metal. He's allergic to metal. Remember, he's allergic to metal, so he can't use a whistle. And they've offered to get him a plastic whistle, and he won't. So he just yells out, "Whistle! Whistle!"
Oh god!
And the worst thing is they listen to him. Like,
but he has an amazing chat, like because obviously, being football, the UK is very well known for developing football chants.
Some are great,
some are great, some are really bad, and some are downright wow. You're allowed to chant this.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So, but obviously for TV sakes, his is very pleasant and simple. And should we do it? Should we do it for
which one? Which one?
Roy Kent.
The Kent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
3, 2, 1. He's here. He's there. He's every fucking where. Roy Kent.
I love it. It's just great, and it's just this thing. And then Jamie Tart has one that is literally like, it's Baby Shark. It's Runoff, and it's the same. And it's the same kind of thing, but it's like, what is it, Jamie Tart? And that's what they say. They just run around. But the Roy Kent one is just great because you just get to swear, and it's all good. But like, I swear to God, like I reckon in the first series, he probably literally only said the word fuck and grunted. Because every now and again he's like fuck. And that's literally what he says. And then it was funny because he's obviously got this little adorable blonde-haired, innocent as hell niece.
Oh, I love his niece.
And he keeps swearing in front of her, and he's also like, yours a pound. He's like, just put it on the thingo.
Put it on my tab.
And then at one point, then they lean over, and it's still in the first series at this point. And he leans over. He's like, "What are you up to now?" And it's like 14,000 pounds. And you're like, "Oh no, 1,400 pounds."
Yeah,
I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh my God!" But their relationship is so adorable. And then obviously Jamie fucks up with Keely, and then towards the end of season 1, Roy Kent and Keely get together, and obviously that is kind of cute and adorable, and I kind of like it. And it's kind of funny.
It's lovely, yeah. So season 1 ends with the team getting relegated, which is a standard practice. And actually, that's one thing I actually like about the English Football League, because you know teams can go up or down, so they're always striving to perform well, which is great, sort of thing. Whereas in the American thing, you have like East Coast Conference and West Coast Conference, and it's always very stagnated.
You actually have 8, so you have 4 in each.
Yeah.
As well, so that's the weirdest thing. You have 4 in each, so you got to win that conference, and then you go into pretty much that, and then you play off in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So it's bizarre, but yeah, the English one is a lot better. It's like, here's the top 20 teams, here's the next top 20 teams, here's the next top 20 teams. They just work their way down.
Yeah, and
the difference
is down and everything. And
so if you finish, I think it's bottom 2. I think it is.
Generally, it's bottom 2 that gets relegated, and it's the top 2
to get moved up.
Yeah.
So quite often you tend to find the teams that are getting relegated are kind of just swapping every year. Not always, but the difference is what comes with relegation is also a lot less money. So what actually happens is you may have 5 or 6 star players that you may have to get rid of because you can't make the salary cap. And you find out about halfway through the season that Jamie is obviously originally signed with Man City.
Correct.
Who's a top team. They had no room for him, so he was lent.
He was loaned out, which is also a standard practice in a lot of.
Which happens bizarre. It means that it means that, say for example, Manchester City or the other team owns his contract, pays his contract, but he's on loan to them, and normally that loan team will also pay the money for it to borrow him and stuff like that. And obviously, because they're doing quite well, Hannah obviously sends him back to Man City. And then when they get relegated, they're playing Man City, and the person that scores the goal is, of course, Jamie.
Jamie, yeah.
Little fucking bastard.
Yeah, but but it's just like the one thing with like the other sub dynamic is that the way of Ted's coaching style with the team and the players,
Yeah.
because of course it's very different, and we've already touched on this, but he does things like he brings in a lot of his childhood with like soldiers, and he uses these little green army men to sort of give them out to people, and he
Yeah.
uses them as sort of motivational things, and basically he's still always nice to Jamie because
Yeah.
he sends him a little letter, and he says the thing and says, "What a way to make that pass! What a way to get that goal, son!" And he's like,
Yeah.
"What is he trying to mess with my mind?" Because of course, typical English players are like, "He's trying to mess with my brain. What is this?" And he's like, "Why? Why is he being
Yeah.
nice?"
And it's just because he is genuinely like
Yeah.
the nicest person, and he
Yeah.
just wants to see the people that are close to him or the people that interact with him do well. And
Yeah.
because of that, yeah, it does. It throws them a lot. But and that's the thing though. There's so many great characters in there that continue to grow. Like obviously you got the Nigerian Sam Adesanya,
Yes.
who is this young player that plays midfield that kind of is still trying to find his feet in the world, and his growth is actually quite beautiful, and seeing the
Yes.
person that he becomes. Obviously, you got
Danny
the guy that
Rojas.
Danny Rojas,
Football is
who
life.
literally he yells out football is life. He does kill a puppy.
Apart from when football is death.
Yeah,
But it's also
and he
life.
yeah, and unfortunately he kills a greyhound when it gets in the way of one of his things, which is actually a real. I loved how that happened at the start, and then obviously throughout this season you see him kind of getting better and worse and stuff, and then
Yeah.
obviously at that last scene at the end. And that's the thing though, there's so many nice touches where it feels like how sometimes we tell stories and then we forget about them and then we get back to them in a couple of episodes. It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like that, where they always seem to wind up the story towards the end. It's not like, it doesn't feel like there's this little bit here that's happened and you're like, oh cool, what happens now? And then it just gets forgotten. And sometimes it's great because like with the Rojas son, you kind of, for season 2, you kind of not forget, but you kind of go, okay, so is he kicking goals? Like, how's he playing after all that? Has he still got to him? And then obviously he gets the penalty kick,
Yeah.
and then you get to see it at the end. But like, it was pretty funny. But yeah, Jamie was playing for
Yeah.
Man City in that second season. He does come back for Richmond mainly because in the middle of the season he goes and does like a reality show like Love Island and
Yeah.
is an absolute twat to these girls, and then
he gets voted
everybody
off
hates
second
him,
week or
and he gets voted out, and he gets dark as hell, and
Oh.
then not another team will wants him because he's pretty much pissed off everybody.
Yeah.
And then obviously he comes back, and yeah, it's a really well thought out series, and I think the thing is the support characters play such a great role.
Oh, well, it's
The
like,
main characters also seem to forever change, so and I think that's a beautiful thing. Is like, for example, in the third season, Sam gets a massive run in, obviously, with his restaurant and different things. But though he kind of becomes a more mainish character, there's still characters there that still lend itself to it. And I think
Yeah.
it's great. Like, it's not like just like, for example, Ted Lasso, his assistant coach, and a few people, and you forget about the rest.
Well,
You actually
we've
really start
forgotten one big main character that we need to mention, and because we're going to get to the ranting bit, which was.
okay.
So we also have Nate Shelley, or Nathan Shelley.
Nate the Great.
Nate the Great. Basically, at the time when Ted takes over being management, Nate is the kit man. He is, and everything else. Basically, and sadly for those in English sport, they are the most important people. They make sure kit gets from A to B. They make sure everything's ready, everything's right for the players, so the players just
Like
turn
they
up.
clean the boots, they do the laundry, they make sure that everything's clean and done. They will set up, like they will have their jerseys hanging in their lockers.
Yeah.
Like they are like,
the
kind
unsung heroes. They do an amazing job, and of course, immediately Ted Lasso recognizes that. Well, actually, Nate's got a load of good knowledge. He's actually got some ideas, which is very interesting, and basically, by the end of the first season, he promotes him to being like an assistant coach or like sort of general idea man sort of thing. And
maybe just on the coaching team or
he's helping out and provides some ideas. And it's a really good sort of strategy and all this jazz. But basically, when we get to season 2, oh god, right, I'm gonna try and not to go irate. Irate. Okay, we're gonna
Well,
be
it's weird
fine.
though because in season 2,
Yeah.
there are like, especially when they go back into it, you can see little signs. But like, because obviously, what happens is Roy Kent gets injured.
Yep.
He becomes part of the coaching team, obviously, because he has a brain for football as well.
Mm.
And I feel like Nate kind of felt like that kid where he's finally getting all the daddy's attention, and then
Yeah.
the new kid came along and he wasn't getting it.
Correct.
And then obviously he becomes a toss bag West Ham motherfucker.
Yeah. So basically, what happens is as Des has put eloquently, basically he throws a bit of a tantrum because Ted starts surrounding and building up this amazing coaching team, and Nate's providing a certain thing, but obviously having Roy, who is this great veteran and knowledge, to
And also
drive
very highly respected by
and
the
highly,
team. So
and yeah,
obviously
the fact is that he was captain and all this jazz. That he provides all this great stuff, and the problem is that yeah, of course Nate's nose gets put out of joint, and he starts sort of saying, oh, he starts focusing on which we all have done, especially in a content creation field, is that you look at the comments and feedback that you get on social media,
yeah,
which is never a good idea ever.
yes, 100%.
It's a slippery slope. And basically, obviously, this season 2 deals with a lot of things about mental issues, which is actually, I think they bring it up really beautifully, because Ted has a bit of a dark past in relation to his father, and sadly, sorry, trigger warning in relation to suicide, which is horrible. But it's amazing what sort of thing they end up bringing in a sports psychologist who.
Well, it's weird though because I think the way they did that too was very clever. So
Yeah.
they brought in a sports psychologist for when Danny Rojas kills the dog. So they already touch on mental health a little bit there,
Yeah.
but it's done in a way that's quite subtle that you don't even notice it. And then Rojas comes running back onto the pitch within a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden
within
people are like, "Oh, maybe I'll talk to him."
Yeah, and then
And
suddenly
then,
all the teams start going along to have their therapy, apart from
yeah,
a couple of individuals.
yeah, and
but-
it's great, well too, because Ted Lasso obviously has come in and he, for the first time ever, though he's really nice to her, he doesn't like what she does because his only experience with it is with his marriage counselor, and obviously during this season his marriage breaks down, and then further into this season you find out that the counselor that he went to that was giving them some counseling starts dating the wife.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
Yeah.
but yeah, Doctor Fieldstone was a great, and I just liked the way she was, very cut and dry, sort of thing. And apparently, because she also has a therapist, and she's talking about Ted, saying, "Look, I just can't get him to open, and it's really odd." And she was like, "Sounds very familiar." She went, "There is nothing alike between me and Ted Lasso, I'll tell you that right now." But it's quite good, and then suddenly she realizes that, oh, I'm approaching him like he's a normal person. Maybe I need to switch it up, and she does.
Yeah.
And at the end of the season, at the end of that series, she ends up leaving, but she doesn't do goodbye, so she tries to just cut and run, and Ted gets very upset about that.
and it's cool too because it does just open up this.
It humanizes him quite nicely, actually. I think
It does
episode.
because the problem is I do think like Ted Lasso in the first series, like he was great, he was funny, but by the second season, I'm like, if this keeps going on, like he's just kind of like I get that he's framed as this person, but there's got to be more to it because the character in the first season obviously was about interaction and different things, but he was very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And obviously they bring in the sports psychiatrist for a completely different thing. He stays around because of these people, which I think is really clever in the way they've done it. And then obviously you seem to find that there's certain things that when the marriage breaks down, there's certain things that happen and they seem to have little things. And then what happens is he has a bit of a panic attack and obviously he has to leave the field. Nate then steps in, calls a play, they win. Then all of a sudden he starts getting this thing and he says the word wonderkin or what he thought was, but he said wonderkin.
He said wonderkin, and which now becomes a reoccurring joke.
So he becomes the wonder kid, and then because he's feeling a bit dejected from Daddy Lasso, he obviously then starts reading into this a lot to the point where you see these changes in him. And I think it was handled really well in regards to that because you've seen these little things, and then it starts to speed up, and you see him constantly on his phone. You see him constantly reading these things. You see him start getting a
And
lot more angry,
yeah,
or
and he
start
starts
being a lot
he
more.
starts taking out on the new kit person and everything else, and it's horrible to see.
Yeah,
But
and
to be fair though, it's like because I got to where did I get to? I can't remember the exact episode now, but it was before the funeral episode where suddenly the I forget his name. Oh, what's his name? Who's Nobed? Who Hannah Wattingham
Rupert,
was Rupert. So
Rupert.
Rupert, yeah. So Rupert turns up for
Okay,
the funeral. Rupert was Rebecca's husband and all that. He's the one who owned the club and everything else. He's not allowed to own the club again, but he's trying to slime his way in and through various means. He turns up to the funeral to throw her off her game, and of course he's got his new wife there, and they've got the baby because of course she always wanted wanted a child and everything else, and of course he's giving everything to the new girl, and it's really interesting. But but what I find really interesting is you have oh god, I've just about to lose my train of thought on it. Is basic. Oh, what was it? I've literally just lost the train of thought trying to explain who Rupert was.
so Rupert was a
Oh,
misogynistic
yes, he's a
billionaire
typical
that
dickhead.
constantly cheats. He's kind of got this whole playboy persona, kind of like daddy money bags, but he's in his like 60s, 70s. He picked up obviously Hannah's character at a cocktail bar while he was there with his wife, and you
Correct.
find out all these nuances and stuff. But he is that traditional, like rich, sleazy douchebag guy. Like he's quite handsy with
Yeah.
his assistant. They go to bars and you see them with different things. Like he's that dude you want to punch in the face.
Yes. So what I've
And
remembered,
then and
it's
then
just come
so
to me. So, but basically, at the end of the funeral thing, what happens is that you end up seeing him talk to Nate, and I was literally sat on the couch because this is obviously a new episode for me, and I was
yeah.
like, and then he's like, "Oh, that was a good one." I went, "Why was he talking to Nate?" And he was like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
I went, "Well, think about it. The last time he ever saw Nate, he was the kick guy. He hasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't part of the coaching team." She was like, "Oh." And we are like, okay. And then we thought we'd get something next episode. Nothing at all.
Well, see,
Like,
that's the thing
and it
though.
was,
I picked it because I'm like, when he's talking to Nate, I'm like, why is he talking to the kit guy?
yeah.
Obviously, he's been known as the Wonderkin and stuff like that. But I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't the episode before he said that he just bought West Ham, and I was sitting
Oh
there,
yeah,
and
no.
after that episode,
He advised. He advised Rebecca that he's buying another team. He didn't say
yeah,
which team it was. But
oh
it was
okay,
like,
yeah,
it was like,
and
oh,
that's what I
okay, all
thought,
right.
and I'm like that would set it up perfectly for
Yeah.
that, where it's like this, that, and the other, and I'm just like, and then obviously then it happens, and I'm like, and it's weird though because as you see Nate grow and start to get more dark, like obviously you know how when you see a baddie in a, like a cartoon
Oh
or like an
yeah.
old adventure movie, they've kind of
You can
got
see the
like the
origin
black
story
clothes and this,
occurring.
that, and the
It's like,
other.
oh my god.
With this one, Nate obviously starts coming in a plain black suit. He starts dressing in a lot darker clothes, and
He
his hair
dresses the
goes from
part of a
his
football manager. That's what he does. He
yeah,
looks.
but it's very black and it's
Yeah.
very like thing. But then obviously I'm guessing he's of obviously some kind of Indian, Pakistani, some kind of background personally. But then his hair starts to go grey, and he lets his hair get grey and stuff. So you can see this kind of subtle change. Like he gets a little bit of salt and pepper, then he starts to
Yeah.
get greyer, and then he gets this almost like this steel grey kind of thing happening towards the end. And then at the end, you just see the back of his head after obviously they've said the series is end, they've been relegated whatsoever.
Yeah.
And as soon as it came up, I was like, no, I
Yeah,
knew that
so
motherfucker
literally
was a
the
traitor
closing
bitch.
scene is you see Rupert and there's a football training session going on. You can't quite work out the kit unless you know kit colours.
Yeah,
But suddenly there's a coach there and he stood there sort of just looking at stuff. You can't tell who it is. And then Rupert walks up, starts talking to him, and like whispers in the ear, and then walks off. And then turns around and you see Nate. And literally, we were watching it, and I was like, "The fucking snake!"
you fucking limey
It
bastard.
literally left my mouth. And then he was like, "Jordan!" I went, "He's a fucking snake! What a dick! I was really angry.
Yeah, and it was, and that's the thing though, and that's especially for someone like myself that got to watch it all in like 3 seasons, like back to back, pretty much. Like the first season, I think I finished in a night. I think I got up to episode 10 in season 2, and then obviously I had a couple of days off. But it was one of those things where you just like, oh my god, and you get so invested. Like for example, obviously when Roy Kent leaves, he passes on his captain to this
Isaac.
this other
Isaac.
African
Yeah.
this other huge African dude who looks like a tank, centre back, big defender. And I must say, in season 3, he comes back.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
probably lost about 2 or 3 stone. Like he looks fit and lean and that. And I'm like, damn.
Now you say the one thing I love about obviously season 3 we end up we're moving quite well on season 3. So basically, Keely and Roy. I mean, what's happened with Keely and Roy in season 2? Keely and Roy.
So at the end of season 2, Roy buys Keely a trip to Mallorca where she can still work on her business, this, that, and the other.
That's it.
6 weeks. Keely's like, no, I've got to be here for her. I really need to be here.
She starts her own PR firm. That's it. Because she
does PR
during season 2, she's working PR for the club specifically, and there's all these little sort of subtle hints and of promotion and products and everything else. And one of the underlying jokes and underlining stories, which is really interesting, is this dating app called Banter, where it's all, you don't get to see her face, but you're texting and all this jazz, which is interesting.
Yeah. I actually don't mind it. So pretty much the idea behind Banter is it's just about talking. So you just have a username. So you might have Ted Jordan, and literally you would message him, and then you just chat. You don't see each other's faces. I don't think even you're allowed to send photos or anything like that. And it's more about getting to know the person.
Yeah, rather than superficial.
And she sets this up, and from there, the Banter people who are funding that then decide to get her own PR company. And then in the background, Sam Adesanya and Hannah also find love on the actual app, which is kind of adorable.
The way it leads up to it, you think, because obviously she signed loads of players up to it, and so you feel like, oh, the players, the coaching staff, everyone's on the app who works for the club, fine. And the problem is that it looks like you think it's Ted and Rebecca, the head of the club, are messaging, because they seem to be messaging at the same time. It's like, oh, because we were watching it, and we're like, oh, this is interesting.
Well, I remember watching it, and I'm like, don't do that. Like their relationship together was so wholesome and so beautiful that I'm like, don't screw it up like that. And then eventually you're noticing that towards the end, as they start to do it, obviously Sam's texting, and then Keely and that are talking about a mystery man, and then you kind of go, wait a minute. But you can always, and what's funny too though is in the actual episodes, you can always find Hannah being super lovely to Sam. Sam's like this really genuine, young Nigerian dude that's quite lovable. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and she's always very polite to him, and you can always see there's that kind of sweetness between them.
Yeah.
And it was done so beautifully that it didn't feel like it was one and the same until towards the end when you're starting to work it out. And it was just handled so well. And then obviously they decide to meet at a bar, and then both of them meet and kind of laugh that they both happen to be at the same bar for a date.
For a date at the same time. And it's like,
and then one of them goes, I'm here, I'm in a blue suit. And then they both turn around and realize it's one another.
Yeah, and
they have this beautiful dinner, and then it kind of eventuates into something until...
Eventually, there's a bit of he walks her home and that's fine, and then there's a little subtle flirting here and there, then suddenly it's like, bam, it's on, sort of thing. But then they realise that I'm your boss and everything else, which is just interesting. But anyway.
Yeah. But it was a nice little side story,
and I think a lovely, beautiful little side story.
It was able to bring Sam more into the forefront, and he was a great character that they were able to bring into the forefront. And then in season 3, he got a lot more of a run where he opened his Nigerian restaurant.
Yeah,
he made a lot of comments against
Well, we also had the beautiful character introduced who was this billionaire out of Nigeria.
Oh, he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So this is a man whose dad owned a tech company, died, and left his son billions. And this dude is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
He becomes unhinged because he wants to set up. He wants to. What is it? So
First, he wants to take Sam back to Africa
That's it. Yeah.
and play in a Ghanan team.
A Nigerian
No, it was
owned.
Ghana.
Oh,
No,
was it
Ghana,
Yeah,
because
was
he's
it?
from Ghana.
All
Because they
right.
used to always go back and forth and go, this is pretty good for
Yeah.
Nigerian food.
That was
So
it.
yeah, so from Ghana. So it was a Ghanaian soccer team, so he was closer to home
Yeah.
and this, that, and the other. Sam eventually says, no, I want to stay with Richmond, which makes him lose it, makes him going, oh, okay, you'll make sure that you never make the Nigerian team. And then at one stage, they do actually have internationals, and Sam doesn't make it, and you
He
find
doesn't
out that
get
he's
picked.
paid
Yep.
$2 million to this to pretty much bribe the Nigerians to not have Sam on it, and it's
Yeah.
just like, what the hell? And then he sets up this super league, which would be the top clubs, like the top 4 clubs of every league coming together to pretty much just be a mega league. And he is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So he opens a Nigerian, or he wants to open an West African restaurant
down
that
the
also
road.
also serves Chicago hot dogs because he loves both. And you're like, what the hell? And then obviously the funniest thing is he says that and you kind of laugh and think that's funny because
Yeah.
he says it in Sam's restaurant after he books out the entire restaurant and then
Yeah.
pretends there's glass and stuff so he gets a free meal. And it's just kind of this funny thing. And then he's like, I'm going to open a Nigerian or West African restaurant that sells traditional West African, hire the best chefs. And then I'm going to also sell Chicago hot dogs.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Why would you sell Chicago hot dogs? And then there's this beautiful clip back to it where they're like, we can't do a deal on the empty stomach. There's all these toffee, like obviously toffee English kids that have way more money than they need to. Rupert's there. Hannah's character is there. And then they decide, okay, cool. And then he pours out the best West African food. And then he puts out the Chicago hot dogs as well. And it's just like, and it's little things like that that aren't overdone, but just kind of take you back to those things that just kind of make it funny. Like these cute things where like Jamie Kent for the England international wears 24, which is Sam Adesanya's number, as a nod to say that. So it's kind of like it's got this cute thing. And to be fair, it's this beautiful way of just building this relationship. And it's not just like, for Ted, it's not just like the management. You actually get to know, and that's what the beautiful thing that I like about the season 3 is that you start to get to know a lot more of the footballers who weirdly have been playing there the whole time. So it's not like they have like different characters that slot in and you don't really notice them. You actually notice them throughout, but they actually start to get into their personality more. Obviously, you have the keeper from France whose name is Zorro, with a weird French accent, but then obviously they get what's his name? Zidane? No.
It then becomes Van Damme.
No. But they get this like they sign this massive player.
Zava.
That plays Zava. That's right.
Who is basically meant to be like Messi or.
No, it's that other one, the guy with the long hair and the ponytail that plays for thing. What's his name? Oh, what's his name?
See, we're both not sports guys. This is the problem. We can't discuss stuff like this because it's like what? Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, it's not him. It's it's a tall dude with the ponytail, and they look exactly the same. Oh, what's his name?
Just put Zava. Who's Zava based off? Just type
I'm
that
trying
in.
to.
That's what you want. Who is Zava, the character based off on for Ted Lasso? That's what you want. There you go. Look, I'll do it. Zava.
I'm trying to.
Ted Lasso.
Yeah, that's his. Zava is. Yeah, that's the one I thought it was. The French guy. Oh no, the Polish. No, is he Polish?
Can you make him?
Robert. No, it's. I'm going to send you a photo because it's pretty much like it looks like this same guy.
Okay.
Just easier. We will put it in the chat. Hopefully, whoever's editing this today, editor Jordan Derek.
Says the
is that his name?
Egos and Energy. Superstar Eric Cantona and Polish striker Robert.
No, it's not going to be. It's not going to be Cantona.
Yeah, no. This
guy. This is the guy.
Egos and energies of real superstars such as Frenchman Eric Cantona. Cantona, sorry.
Yeah.
Eric
Cantona, but he played for Manchester United. He jumped into the crowd and kicked somebody.
But the preeminent role was Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
That's the one. That's the one I'm
There you
thinking
go.
of.
There you go. That's what.
I've sent you a thing. Like the look of him and
Yeah. Oh
everything
yeah.
is
No. No.
like
I
that.
know. I know. I'm literally got a side by side right here. I can see it.
Yes, but yeah, and he literally plays like this, and he says like he takes Richmond where the first half of the season they're absolutely destroying it,
Yeah.
and then he's like people, and he's got like he's very like spiritual and very like over the top,
Oh
ridiculous,
yeah.
and he says you can be whoever you are. So the French,
Which
his
winds
French,
Jamie's up as well because Jamie's obviously
yeah,
the star player and obviously it winds him up and yeah. There's
and he is this kind of like, and he's this spiritual thing that everyone seems to buy in for, and Jamie and a few of them are just like he's a fucking knob. What is he doing here? And it's just this funny thing, and he's such a great character. And I'm glad they didn't leave him in for too long. Like I feel like he would have got rolled real quick, and I'm
yeah.
glad that they brought him in for a little bit. They won a few games, they got that roll on, and then obviously then he just randomly just dropped off. But
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously in that he set up
Randomly
some great
retires. Yeah.
things where he tells people about how they can be whoever they want. So the keeper whose name everybody referred to it as Zorro, but it was like Zorro or something.
Yeah, it
It's
was
French accent.
Zorel or Zarel
Yeah,
or however it
or
was.
something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And so everyone calls him Zorro, and he's like, "No." So then he goes, "I want to be called Van Dam."
I'm gonna be going
And
bam.
then during the internationals, Danny Rojas in Mexico plays against Canada, breaks his nose, so he's got to wear one of those glass masks that what's his name had to wear, that a few people have had to wear, including
Yep. It was a
what's his name,
safe.
Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, it was a safety.
Cody
It's
Rhodes
a
in wrestling.
safety glass thing to protect his
Yeah,
nose now, and yeah, but now and then he
and
goes by
then
Zorro.
no, but he went by Van Dam for a while, and
Yeah.
then Rojas, as an apology, gave him this one that had like this black thing here. So it was
Yeah.
weird because it was clear here, but gave him like this black thing. And then he's like, I want to be known as Zorro. And then Ted Lasso obviously says it correctly. He's like, no, just Zorro.
Just Zorro.
And it's just these little things that are just are so beautiful in it. Like there's that Dutch guy who's just
Oh, the
to
Dutch
the
guy
point where
who's
he's
always
just
truthful, and it's
like
brilliant.
so truthful, like bluntly. He's like the sort of person where you're like, do I look fat in this? Very much so. And it's just and they just make the excuse, oh, he's just Dutch.
Oh, don't worry, he's
And
just Dutch.
it's just there's these little nuances that
Yeah.
just seem to make this thing special. And the good thing is I feel like, and the one thing that they've done beautifully is it doesn't seem to be like just a throwaway character.
Yeah.
Every character is there for a reason. And then obviously towards the end of season 3, unfortunately, Nate the Great just sees Rupert cheating on his partner yet again. Can't deal
Well,
with it. He's got a girlfriend
Yeah,
and just goes, no.
basically Nate the Great does come back, thank God. Thank God.
Yes.
But he realizes that Rupert's using him and trying to push him down the road that he doesn't want to go down.
Yeah.
Because of course he gets his own girlfriend and everything else, which is fabulous. But yeah, it's basically season 3 tied up a lot of loose ends, like real lot of loose ends. Like Keely, because obviously Keely and Roy have broken up, and Keely starts dating her boss. Yes.
Yeah, Jax.
Jax, her boss. Also, the fact, but Jamie,
who is Jack? Everybody says Jack, so everybody obviously has a pre-named notion.
that
And then
it's a
what
man,
walks in is
but
this
it's
beautiful
not.
girl with a black sort of like sharp bob and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So she comes
Fabulous
in, and
looking
obviously there's some they have a relationship and stuff like that.
Yep.
But then unfortunately, like what happens, Keely's
Keely,
adult videos like gets leaked.
Yeah, and basically being American, she's like, no, we got to nip this in the butt. I apologize for doing all this. And she's like, well, no, I can't apologize. I did mean what I was doing it for at the time. And then you find out that it was Jamie's email that's got leaked and all this jazz. But yeah, but basically there is a love triangle still between Roy and Jamie both want Keely, but Keely just sees them as friends now, which is great, and it's beautiful the way it ends on that.
But what's funny too though is during season 3, Kent and obviously so after the whole Zatar thing, what is his name? No, Zava. Sorry, I'm now mixing all the names together. Jamie wants to become that kind of player. So Roy Kent takes him under his wing. They form this really beautiful relationship where he's training him and looking after him.
5 a.m. every day or 4 a.m. every day.
And then there's this beautiful little thing there. And then obviously towards the end, they go to a bar, they have a few beers, and then obviously they decide that they both want Keely, beat the living crap out of each other, go to Keely, and Keely's like, I don't want any of yous pretty much, and slams the door in their faces. and it's
Damn,
kind
we
of
didn't think
hilarious.
about that. It is. It's so good. But
And it's just
yeah,
really clever, and it's these little things that I'm just like, oh. And then not to mention, it seems to be set in a place that I called home for almost
yeah,
3 years, and it just and because of that as well, like I know where they are. Like you see them walk past the Angel and Crown, you see them go like here and stuff, and you're just like, oh my god,
yeah.
it just makes me so happy.
So the way they obviously end the series is basically obviously the 11th episode they beat Manchester City, who's their
Yeah,
rival team throughout all the things.
and
Great
obviously the
that
people that relegated them with
people that
Jamie's
relegated them
best
and
team.
everything, and it was great. That was a great episode. You've then got the last episode, which is So Long Farewell. That is where they're versing West Ham, who's Rupert's team. Of course, he's brought in Richmond's original manager, who was also a pundit and everything else.
Yeah,
And
you'll meet him throughout the series.
yeah,
He's one
yeah,
of the
yeah.
pundits.
He's one
He's
of the
this
pundit.
old
He's
grizzly
in.
kind of Santa looking motherfuckers.
Yeah, but basically, there's an entire thing about that where all Rupert wants to do is win and beat
Yep.
Rebecca, and of course, that's not the way that they're playing and everything else. And of course, he takes it too far. And basically, at the end of the series, you realise that he's struck off. He's not allowed to own any team after that, and blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and X, Y, and Z.
But there was a big thing. So when they beat Manchester City, they were within 1 point.
Mm.
So if they were to beat West Ham and Man City were to draw or lose,
Yeah,
they would actually win, and that means they would win the champion. So they go from relegation to the champion. And I'm really glad they did what they did, which is what they did is they allowed them to beat West Ham. So it was like, yes, we beat Rupert, this, that, and the
Yeah.
other. But then also Man City won, so they didn't win the
yeah.
championships.
So
And I'm glad they didn't do that whole underdog thing where they go, oh, this team is crap. And then all of a sudden they go to winning. I'm like,
yeah.
that kind of frustrates me when they do that because I'm like, nah.
But basically, what you find out is that Ted Lasso, when he's going to play the game against Man City, he tells because obviously there's a recurring thing that they keep every year. There seems to be a big reveal on that episode, and
Yeah.
the first time it's like Rebecca admitting to Ted that I brought you in here so you could ruin this club, and I don't want you to anymore. And then the next year it's Rebecca.
Sam, I think it is.
Rebecca is saying I'm having a relationship with Sam, but we have called it off. And
Yeah.
he's like, right, okay. And then the next year she turns up and she's like, it's that time of year, I've got nothing. And he's
Yeah.
like, well, boss, I need you to sit down. And then
I've
you
got
don't know what
something.
it is, but you find out immediately that he is leaving. And it is a brilliant episode because basically the entire episode is everyone trying to convince him to stay. It's like, please stay, please stay on. I know we took the freak out of you and we've bullied you. Please stay. You were so good for us. And like you've got people like Beard, who's the assistant coach who came with him, who
is amazing.
Who's
He
amazing.
is one of the best support characters ever.
Great support
He has
character.
this crazy
Yes.
girlfriend Jane, and they're just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
It's weird. He says very little, but when he speaks, you listen.
Yeah.
And he's also just a bit like he's amazing.
Yeah.
He's such a good character. He already has. Like, you already feel his weirdness throughout the series, and then towards the end of season 3, you start to get to know him a little bit better.
Yeah, well, you
And
find
then-
out that basically the Ted brought him on because he was his friend. He ended up crashing a car. Ted took the blame for it and everything else. And
No. He went to jail. He got out of jail, and Ted said, "Live with me."
yeah,
Then what
but
happened
then he
is
took his
that,
car. That was it. Yeah.
but then he stole his car, and then he convinced the officer, "No, I gave him the
yeah,
car,
I loaned
so
it to
he
him.
wouldn't go back."
Yeah, I loaned it to. That was it. And he's been indebted to Ted ever since. And of course, he doesn't want to go back to the UK because he's found another crazy woman.
He doesn't want to go back to the US.
Yeah, sorry. He doesn't want to go back to the US because he's found a crazy woman who he's in love with and everything else. And
Their relationship is just ridiculous
Yeah,
and
but
amazing, and kind of
it
funny.
is a beautiful story, and so he ends up sort of getting the flight. He ends up getting taken off the flight for having a potential heart
Appendicitis.
attack.
Yeah, so
Or
what he
whatever
does
it
is,
is.
he splashes fate, and then he tells him his appendix are breaking because they've already shut the door. So he knows the only thing that will open him is a medical emergency.
Yeah.
So and that's the most beautiful thing is at the end you see Beard and Ted going, and then they have this relation. You see him have this talk, and obviously he's like, yeah, no, I want to stay.
I can't go. I don't want to go. Yeah, and he's just like, well,
And it's quite beautiful. And he's like, how are you going to do it? And then the funniest thing is so throughout the entire thing, Ted is amazing. Everybody thinks he's amazing. Like, it's hard not to fall in love with him. And then at the very end, obviously, his mate gets wheeled off because his appendix are about to blow up.
And winks at him.
And winks at him as he does it. But then the funniest thing is at the very end where the flight attendant's like, did you want to get off the plane too and be with your mate? And he's like, no. He goes, no, I'm just going to fly home. Because obviously he knows it's a ruse. He knows that this is what it is. And then as the flight attendant walks up and goes, fucking asshole. And it's just this funny thing because obviously it's just not him and it's just great. But there is, and that's the thing though, and that's the thing about this series that is it's so easy to fall in love with the characters. It's so well written. It's so clever. You see them grow, but it doesn't feel like it's forced. It doesn't feel like anything. And it's just funny. But Beard is such a great character. And then obviously Ted Lasso goes back home because he misses his kid.
Yep.
I did find it cute because that's left the door open. Because if you watch the last episode when he's fighting West Ham, obviously his wife and his son are watching the game. You can see them getting really into it, and then the boyfriend / therapist is being an absolutely knob, and you can see her getting more and more frustrated with him. So it almost feels like maybe if he does go home, there's a bit of a chance they get together. And obviously they leave it there towards the end, and it's kind of great.
Yeah. No, it was a great episode, and to be fair, we watched it and we really enjoyed it, and then immediately, of course, it ends, and of course, Ellie asked the dreaded question.
Yeah, will there be another one?
And she was like, "The season 4 coming, right?" I said, "I will," because obviously I avoided looking because I didn't want to type in and finding out because you always type that in and it tells you what happens on the last episode. Yeah. So I was like, I avoided it, and it was really hard.
Yeah, I know, and it is hard. So obviously, finale Ted Lasso has said he's not coming back.
No,
but
I'm sorry, you cannot do. They cannot do this show without Ted Lasso in, and I don't care.
So they're not going to do this show, but there is rumors of a spin-off, which would obviously follow Nate, Roy, Beard, and that kind of those guys in it.
Yeah, because basically Beard goes back to Richmond. He's acting. Roy becomes head coach. Nate's working as kit manager / assistant coach as well. I tell you what, we've discussed this entire podcast. We've not mentioned one of the best characters yet. One of the most prominent characters we haven't mentioned.
Is it May from the pub, or the three guys from the pub, or is
there is those. They are great side characters. No, I'm talking about
Leslie Higgins.
Hello,
Leslie Higgins.
Trent Krim of the Independent.
Oh, yes. He and the third season. Yes. It's weird though, because when they brought him in, I'm like, I get that he's a great character and he's a fun character, but I'm like, how are you going to bring him in? So this is a guy that is a journalist, takes himself very seriously. Yep. He looks like he comes from old money. He's kind of like a writer, and he's like, Trent Krim from the Independent.
Trent Krim, the Independent.
And he said, but that's how he says it all the time. So rather than even when Ted Lasso gets to know him, he's like, all right, Trent. Because he starts talking, he's like, yeah, Matt. And Matt will just stand up and ask a question. And he's like, all right, Trent, what about you? And he's like, Trent Prim, the Independent. It's like, yeah, we already know that. And he's funny. And then throughout the first two series, he's just a journalist that you see. And then the third season, he comes back and writes a book, or he wants to write a book about the club.
Yeah.
And obviously
doesn't want it.
Yeah, and it's so funny because in the scene they ask Ted, because they're like, you can make the final decision, and obviously Trent turns around and looks at the thing, and Leslie, who's the football operations, you've got Hannah's character, you've got Keely, and they're all like, no, and then Ted's like, yeah, all right, if you're good, and it's like, oh my god. And I was like, I don't understand how you're going to get him to be in it.
Yeah.
And it just felt like it, and I won't lie, the first episode when I saw it, I was like, I get that he's a fun character, but if you're just forcing him in it, but then he actually added, and he was probably one of my favorite characters from season 3.
Oh yeah.
The amount that he added, like obviously his interactions with Colin, his interactions with a lot of people, and understanding the different nuances of it, and then obviously he wrote a book that he called The Lasso Way, which was obviously about his thing. And then down the track, Ted was funny. Ted, like, it was great. I just want one thing. But Beard, who always reads book and you always see like little note, like tabs in it, gives him back this thing with, this is shit, all these red things. And then it's got all these different like things sticking out. And then there's one next to it that just says, this is great, but change the title. And then obviously he changes it to The Richmond Way. So yeah, but there has been talks from a spin-off. even Thingo himself has said that I'd be more than happy to have a spin-off, and he might be involved in certain ways, but obviously he doesn't want to be in it. But that being said, they have posted a photo of Roy, Beard, and Nate all looking up, kind of like at the believe sign. So it's almost the shots taken from the believe sign, and it's got them. And that was actually only posted on June 7th.
Yeah.
So they have said that it won't be a season continuing, but they reckon it may be a spin-off.
Yeah, I am interested, but I'm like, it's. I don't know how you do it without Ted Lasso in, because he is,
It is true, but I do think they've built up these people
Oh yeah, no,
enough.
don't get me wrong. They've done a beautiful job setting the stage. They've done an amazing job setting the stage. But the problem is that I like Ted in it. Ted was like the main draw to it. I mean, don't get me wrong, because it's like the one episode where you didn't. I mean, I'm assuming the one episode where it's Beard's episode. The one where it's Beard's Wild Night Out.
Yeah.
That kind of felt like, there was obviously a scheduling conflict with Hannah Wattingham and Jason Sudeikis that night, and they're like, "Crap, what do we do?" And
I actually thought that was quite funny because I think it was good to actually dive into Beard a little bit more.
Wrong. It was good to get a bit of background on Beard, but it was kind of like, this is the weirdest episode. Again, that was one of my filler episodes. But anyway.
But it's weird though because it was a fucking weird episode. Like I'm not going to say it wasn't, but it also felt just so Beard, and it's the kind of things that happen to him. Like even when he finally gets home and he puts the key in the door and you see him wiggle it, and that's the funny thing. London locks are very much like that. Like I remember the lock that we used to have to do to lock our pub. It was like you had to lock it 3 times, go back twice, and then pop it.
Yeah.
And then it would pop. It was the weirdest thing. So you actually close it 3 times and it would hit the end, but no matter what you did, you couldn't. So you'd close it twice and then you'd have to do it that, and then it would pop open. And it was just the weirdest lock. And it was just funny that at the end of this crazy drug-infused night, I'm guessing it was, that he ended up obviously breaking his key, and then he's like crying, and then he obviously goes to the church.
Yeah.
And then he obviously meets back up with Jane and they get back together. But yeah, it is weird. Like I do feel like they'd have to do a spin-off of it because as a lot of people in the comments are saying under it, please don't make a season 4 or please make it a spin-off because Ted Lasso was perfect.
I definitely don't want a season 4. They ended it beautifully. But at the same time, I'm interested to see how it would work as a spin-off.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just want
to add
Come on, you're going to be quick because I'm going to end this episode.
There's a little bit of trivia from the thingo. So Roy Kent was originally hired as a writer and then obviously was actually doing a audition, like reading the audition with another character, and they loved him so much that they put him in. Okay. Jason Sudeikis and Ted Lasso are kind of parallel because he actually, when he made this show, he actually escaped to London after the breakup with Olivia Wilde.
Okay, all right.
And one of the ones that I find funny is Hannah. Throughout the whole series, Ted makes shortbreads and gives them to Hannah's character every day.
Yeah.
And according to this, she says the biscuits were absolutely horrific to the point where I don't even know how or where they got them from. The prop department admitted that they didn't put much effort into making them taste delicious, as they hadn't realised that she would eat them with so much enthusiasm on screen.
Apparently, that recipe has been cracked though. They popped up on my TikTok, and I've got it saved. Oh,
really?
I'm ready. I'm just waiting for an opportunity.
Oh my God! Please make it.
I'll probably make it when I get back from my UK.
Yeah, but she actually said that she said that the best award that she ever got was eating those, and she should have won a thing for that. Roy Kent is based off the Irish football player Roy Keane.
Yep, Roy Keane. Yep.
So. Amazing thing. And so Leslie, who's the football
Higgins,
operations, and his wife in the show, Julie, is actually his real wife.
Oh, that's lovely. I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's lovely.
So obviously they got here that Nelson Road was Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And then there's a few other things on here that has it, but those were the top ones and those were the ones that I liked. But yeah, I must say, I was watching this mainly for this podcast, and that was my whole reason for watching it.
Out of 10, what are you rating it as a series? As a show?
I would probably go about a 9.3.
You say I'm about a 9.5. I think if I was a football guy, if If I was actually a genuine football guy, it would be a 10 out of 10. Slamming sort of thing.
I'm rating about 9.3 if I'm honest.
Yeah,
like, and I think the fact that I got to see the place where I lived for so long, it made me happy, and it just made it so much more special because. Yeah, I've drunk at May's pub. May never owned it. It was an old grizzly guy, and there was this adorable little redhead Kiwi girl that used to run it. She was amazing. She used to always come over and go, "Can I borrow a couple of pints of vodka?" We got really pissed on vodka, and we're about to do our stock take, and if they find it missing, they're going to lose it. So you'd hand them vodka, and then she'd go down to Tesco's and buy vodka later, and replace it. So yeah, but I must say it was something that I did to keep Jordan happy and for content. And I must say, I'm so pleasantly surprised that I did. Like, I'm so happy that I got to watch that and experience that. And especially, I'm glad that I got to watch it from start to end in such a short concession. Short. I'm not even going to talk today.
No.
I'm tired. I'm tired.
So what you're saying is that I was right. Is what I generally go off that. Is that I'm right and you were maybe wrong?
I wasn't wrong. But yes, you were definitely right. I don't think I was wrong.
Right,
I don't think I was wrong.
Right. Anyway, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for following us.
You watch 17 clips of Jordan saying anything, and then just me going, "Yeah, you're right," and that's just gonna be anything. Like Jordan's gonna be saying the most preposterous stuff. Like, I think the moon is yellow, and I'll be like, "That is right." Like, it's going to be one of Jordan's most used memes in the clips. So, yeah, get ready for that.
Don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, make sure you like, follow, subscribe us on all the software that you can watch our beautiful podcast on, as well as listen to our podcast on. And make sure you follow us at Dorks Down Under on TikTok and Twitter. And peace out, guys.
Layers.